telling the jury, lying to the jury. There was never an investigation in this case. Never an investigation by the FBI. Absolutely. Now Johnny Sutton says that they called the FBI, but the FBI turned it down. They said, you've got a good man investigating the case. That is not so. The FBI would never have turned it down. They were never notified to investigate this case. Now, Compián testified that
the Office of Homeland Security,
Agent Christopher Sanchez, who became real close friend of the drug smuggler in the 1 year that we were waiting trial. But Agent Compián testified that he couldn't hold the smuggler down because he's too big for him. But anyway, when the smuggler gets up the second time, he gets away from Compián, he kicks dirt all over him, throws dirt, and he starts running. And this is when he pulls out something shiny and points at Compián, who's down on the ground. Compián is cut up. He's got a cut in his face, a cut in his hand from the struggle. This is when Compián, laying on the ground, pulls out his Beretta, and he fires several shots. He didn't hit the smuggler at all. My son-in-law was still trying to crawl out of the canal, and he runs up the 30 feet to the levee. When he gets there, he hears shots. Now, Johnny Sutton says that my son-in-law, Agent Ramos, should not have gone to the aid of his fellow agent Compián at the press conference after sentencing. He said he should have hollered, "Get down!" You know, there's nothing out there but jackrabbits, maybe a few rattlesnakes. Get down to who? You know, what kind of coward is this? It took a lot of guts for my son-in-law to go to the aid of his fellow agent after hearing shots in the middle of the day, wide open spaces. But he went to help his fellow agent. When he got up on the levee, he sees Compián still on the ground and the drug smuggler running towards Mexico. Now, my son-in-law already had pulled his weapon, of course, when he heard shots, and he takes after the drug smuggler. And as he was approaching, trying to catch up with him, the drug smuggler turns and points at my son-in-law. Now, this was the testimony of the U.S. Army doctor at William Beaumont Army Hospital in El Paso, who testified that the government took him to the hospital to extract the bullet fragment. It wasn't a complete bullet, but the doctor testified that the drug smuggler had to be in a running position and pointing back with his left hand to receive that wound. Now, you've heard probably 1,000 times that the smuggler was shot in the buttocks. That's not true. He was shot in the side. On the side, not in the buttocks, between the buttocks.
I kind of like the other story.
And the ground. Anyway, the smuggler gets away. They drilled my son-in-law, I don't know for how long, saying, "Why didn't you shoot him again?" Because my son-in-law only took one shot. Nobody knew that he had been wounded. My son-in-law says he was no longer a threat. He turned and he kept running towards the river. And he got in the tall brush and hid. And my son-in-law just waited there. 3 other agents had arrived, 2 others in a vehicle, and of course Compián had gotten up off the ground. And they all waited and watched. And they saw him come out of the brush, cross the river, and there was another van out there waiting for him, 2 other suspects. He got in the van and they took off. Now, you know, they criticize because, and they did make a mistake, but we don't know for sure. Now they say that they did report it verbally to their supervisor, who denied he even knew that Compián had been assaulted after he had asked him 3 times at the station, "Are you okay? Do you need medical assistance? Are you okay?" And Compián said, "I'm okay. I'm okay." You know, real shy. He's a real quiet man, real shy. But anyway, the smuggler gets away. Everybody goes back to the station. They get the van. They take the 743 pounds of marijuana. By the way, this is his first haul. We don't know how many he brought between February and October, but in the middle of October, he brought another 752.7 pounds of marijuana into El Paso and delivered it to a stash house about 15 miles east of El Paso. The government covered it up. Now, we held a sealed indictment.
Now let's get this clear. And I'm not saying you're not being quite articulate, because you certainly are. But there's a lot that's been in the press. The government, Johnny Sutton, and by the way, I believe with all my heart that if Johnny Sutton were out there, the only thing he'd have been doing was saying, "Get down." you know, well, anyway, that's another issue. But he's the prosecuting attorney. But Brother Joe, this mule was caught at what time? Because the government's alleging it was way after the trial.
No.
That he was caught the second time. What was the first time frame?
Okay, the day they were picking the jury for this trial, the government called for a postponement. They said that they had to take the drug smuggler to San Antonio, Texas for additional surgery. Well, it was a lie. It was because they found out that the drug smuggler had brought another load. And like I said, who knows how many he brought between February and October while we were pending trial in our case. But there was a sealed indictment. They covered it up because if they had arrested him and charged him with the second load, no, the first load, he got immunity from prosecution. He got immunity from prosecution. They offered him a lot of things. They brought him to El Paso for treatment at the Army hospital at taxpayers' expense. It's a $35,000 supposedly surgery to remove a bullet fragment from the drug smuggler. And they also offered, according to my sources, and I have two very, very good sources that tell me that they also offered him and his family residency. All this they offered him in exchange for his testimony against the two agents.
They gave a working mule, if
Right.
you will, immunity to testify against two of our law enforcement officers and forgave him his current activity.
And I have his statement. I also have his statement from Homeland Security where he said that he was merely walking into the United States as an illegal alien when the two agents tried to arrest him and beat him up, and that's why he ran and they shot him in the back. First of all, my son-in-law wasn't even there until after the chase began, chasing him back to the river.
Yeah.
And, you know, from there, they gave him immunity as a key witness against my son-in-law and Agent Compian.
With the help of Rene Sanchez.
Say it on-
Yeah.
If we go back, his immunity was given to him with the help of another agent from Arizona, apparently a longtime family friend who assisted him because we didn't have Osvaldo Alderete Davila, the drug dealer, at the time that my husband was arrested for this incident. The prosecution actually went into Mexico to bring him back to testify. He was non-compliant. He did not want to cooperate in the investigation until they gave him immunity. So
Now they gave, as I understand it, and they had a jury trial, but did the jury get all the information?
no, they didn't. No, they didn't.
Because I've heard from 4 different jurors that if the prosecution would have not have withheld evidence, one bit of that evidence was that if this smuggler, if it would have been known that while jury selection was taking place, this guy was still smuggling drugs, and our government was in fact turning their back on his muling activity or whatever the street talk is. If they wouldn't have done that, if the jury would have had this information, they're saying if they would have had all the information, they would have not have reached the verdict that they reached.
Absolutely. The second, they didn't arrest him. As a matter of fact, they just let him go back to Mexico. My sources tell me all they did was take away his crossing card and any further medical treatment at the Army hospital, because a week after my son-in-law and Agent Compian were arrested, which was 1 month after this incident, he filed a $5 million lawsuit, the drug smuggler did, against the U.S. Border Patrol. Now, the government had every opportunity to back off this case, but they didn't. This drug smuggler was the one that was facing over 20 years in prison for the drugs that he had, for the assault on Agent Compian. They didn't back off, and now they strongly support this guilty verdict because they want to blame the $5 million lawsuit on Agents Ramos and Compian.